on the
More
pod.
often than not, that's a cure to a lot of things. Spicy foods, sweat it out, and give it hail.
What's going on, everyone? I'm Travis Brown, senior at KBTX A&M sportswriter here at KBTX. I can't ever get our introduction right, but I'm just going to keep rolling. That is Chief Meteorologist Max Crawford over there. This would be like the third take of doing this. That is sports reporter Nicole Griffith joining us.
It's live TV. You just roll with it, Max.
I'm fine. Can I say my favorite part
As
of doing
you're dying
these
over there.
is the introduction. It's always so great.
It's a roller coaster.
We do
You
so
never
well.
know.
Yeah.
It's a box of chocolates.
Who's going to be a senior? Who's going to be a
You
chief?
never know what's going to come
Maybe
out of my
we're all
mouth.
seniors and chiefs.
Yeah, so we're the crews here. We're gonna break down some interesting things in the world of college football. But Nicole, you're joining us for the first time in a little bit.
Yeah.
How are you? How's it? You had a little cold lately. Are you over the cold?
No, we're still hanging in.
You sound much better than last week.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Last week was rough. But I still have. It's just that allergies, cold, kind of head cold stuff. So, as Max said, spicy food, sweat it out, and maybe shove some water up my nose.
Yeah, but I can only give so much advice because I don't do the neti pot thing. It scares me.
Maybe you can do it to me.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe we can do a little sinus rinse together.
We have this thing that we started with Nicole's first appearance where we have the little cold open that you hear at the beginning with some blooper or funny thing. I don't know. Spicy food, take a nap and shove water up my nose.
Sweat it out.
Sweat it out. That might be the cold open. I don't know.
I aim to please whenever I'm on the
More
pod.
often than not, that's a cure to a lot of things. Spicy foods, sweat it out, and give it hail. You know? That should be a motto.
BTHO,
that's
spicy
right.
colds with
You can
spicy
do it.
food.
This time of year,
sweat it
shoot,
out.
man.
But I will say I am thriving in the winter. I know this weather we've had these past couple days.
I saw this woman. I'm sorry to cut you off, but this woman posted an Instagram story yesterday afternoon when the wind chill was like 14, and it was just this like really happy selfie, and I think the caption was
I was
just
walking
thriving.
a dog. Yeah,
Thriving.
I was outside.
That's awesome. I'm very glad that you enjoy it. I really am.
Only a South Dakotan could thrive in these conditions.
That's wonderful.
I won't tell you the messages my grandma sent me. So
about the way the weather is there,
and how we're handling it down here.
And we're not handling it well.
Tell us about how we're handling it down here.
Did she call us a bunch of pansies?
We'll just keep that off the record.
Okay,
so
got it.
Julie has chimed in with her thoughts.
Got it.
So are your whole family South Dakotans?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
For the most part, yeah.
So they know how to handle some frigid temperatures.
Yep, they are. We're from the western part of South Dakota, Mount Rushmore, like 30 minutes from my house. But my grandma grew up on a humble brag. I don't go very frequently, but that's when people think South Dakota, or if they don't know much about South Dakota, I just say Mount Rushmore as kind of a thing to bring it up. But my family has a ranch, northern South Dakota, so near North Dakota.
Did you ever go to Sturgis?
I have been to Sturgis.
It's pretty wild there.
I spent about 3 hours and I left.
Okay.
For the rally.
You're right. Yeah.
Have you found that since you've been down here, you're adjusting to the cold a little bit differently, or is that something that stays?
Oh no, it's so nice out.
Yeah.
I love going outside.
I don't think it's what the air is. I think it's what's in the air that has been bothering Nicole.
The wind was rough yesterday. Yeah. Oh, you mean allergies?
Yeah, right.
But I feel like I come prepared. Like I have so many winter coats. I have so many boots.
You know who doesn't? Travis Brown.
The guy right in the middle.
The heaviest coat I own was the one that was given to me to wear for KBTX.
You need like a solid LL Bean jacket.
Like I broke the Columbia out yesterday.
Because it is useful twice a year.
Yeah, exactly.
But it will last a very long time because you don't use it that much, and it's also high quality stuff.
Well, but again, I don't use it, and I just
we're not sponsored by LL Bean, by the way.
And we are sponsored by someone else.
Yes. Yeah. Just C&J Barbecue. Our new sponsor for the pod, and we are so excited for that. Justin Manning says that he can't wait to maybe come in and pop in every now and then, and maybe even give us, I don't know, some samples and stuff.
Or we go to them.
Or we
might just have to do the show at C&J's.
I'll settle for the smells. I'll settle for the free smells. What restaurant is that that's at? Well, doesn't matter because they're not the sponsor, so whatever. But yeah, we're very, very excited to have C&J along board with us.
That was almost like one of my intros.
to put up with our tomfoolery.
Exactly.
So, yes.
Well, our tomfoolery today revolves around the state of college football because it depends on just what day you wake up. It could be completely different. It could be a completely different sport. We don't even know.
Yeah.
You have a thought of it?
Well, I just wanted to ask Nicole if she was thinking the same thing I was, that Travis is really fired up to talk about this.
I can tell. And Max was yawning before the show even
started. I was just
nodding off.
He needs coffee.
It's been a long week. Okay, but we're here.
As we all know, I sometimes enjoy the things that go on outside of the lines.
Okay.
Then, there was the old ESPN show, Outside the Lines.
Yeah, that was a good show.
Our
OTL.
version of that.
Yeah.
I think it's because we are, I myself, it's crossover season, so I am so ingrained in, high school basketball playoffs, basketball, A&M, men's and women's basketball, Sam Houston, baseball, softball, A&M, baseball, softball, and Travis is able to read and look and see. I'm like, oh, things are happening, meetings are happening, what's going on?
Big
so we balance each other out.
Yeah. So before we get to what is high school basketball playoffs looking like right now?
So
a shout out to the community.
The girls are in 4th round. Rudder girls are playing on Saturday.
That's awesome.
In Katy at 2:00. I wish that game was tomorrow night, but we will make a long Saturday. It's fine. We're used to it. And then the boys are they're 2 weeks behind. So I'm covering Hearn tonight. And they're playing, I don't know who they're playing, but they're playing in Giddings because they're all neutral sites.
Gotcha.
So I've been in Conroe, I've been in Tomball, going to go to Giddings. I've about an hour, Rockdale, Hearn, about an hour drive every day.
Yeah.
So out of all of those, only Tomball would you have an opportunity to stop at a Buc-ee's?
I was going to ask a Buc-ee's question, but, have you?
Have I been to Buc-ee's?
Yeah, well,
I don't stop when I'm
you don't stop
working.
And get a soda?
Only if it's if I have to go to Austin, I'll stop. But Buc-ee's doesn't take
That's such an easy stop.
They don't take our gas card.
Oh.
So I don't.
We'll work on that. We'll get somebody on that.
We really do.
Yeah, we'll get somebody on that. That Buc-ee's stop on the way to Austin, though, is the easiest one, for sure.
Bastrop?
Yeah.
Bastrop?
Bastrop.
Yes.
Rudder beat Bastrop.
All right.
In their last game.
I guess
in Rockdale?
Would you go by the Waller Buc-ee's? To go to Tomball?
No, you wouldn't make it to there.
I normally go to Navasota and then cut.
You take 105 instead of 290.
You know me.
I mean, you could get to Tomball that way, but right.
I'm super distracted over here because your mic is...
Oh, is it pushing on the keyboard?
The keyboard.
I'm sorry.
It's like a laser light show.
Well, it is a wireless keyboard. I'll just move it. Travis, you wanted to talk about college football.
I did want to talk about college football.
And the mic is yours.
The mic, yeah. So... the Big Ten and SEC coaches, athletic directors, also conference officials from those two conferences met in New Orleans this weekend. And according to reports by various outlets, most notably Yahoo Sports and The Athletic, there was a lot of really interesting tidbits that they talked about there. The 3 biggest in my mind are expansion of the college football playoff and inviting more teams, potentially 14 to 16. The more automatic bids for those two conferences, the Big Ten and the SEC, and finally the movement to 9 games in the SEC conference slate, which is something that has kind of been a point of conversation for years and years. Well, go listen to the podcast. Thanks everybody for watching.
Do it all. That last one, do it yesterday.
Yeah, let's start there. Let's start there. The 9 teams.
I think that's the easiest one.
Right. Since Texas and OU announced they were going to join the SEC, that discussion of 8 games or 9 games has been kind of a hovering issue the entire time. They're at 8 right now, but the 9th would enable more of the rivalry games. Probably if they stay at 8, there's the conversation that Each team would have one permanent opponent, and Texas's one permanent opponent would be OU, not A&M. So that game would only be played every other year at best.
Mm-hmm.
But a ninth game...
And that's exactly when they try to move it to a neutral site, and I know it.
The 9-game schedule has 3 permanent opponents, which means A&M would get to play Texas and LSU or Arkansas. The original thing was pitched, I think, was
Texas, LSU, and Mississippi State.
Yeah. So that would allow for that, but it's a 9th conference game. It's another difficult game that if there was another loss, I mean, you look at everyone who was yelling at Alabama, wanting Alabama in the playoff, they had one really bad loss to Oklahoma, and that pretty much made the difference for them being in and out of the playoffs. So 8 games or 9 games, what do you think?
I think they should go to 9 games because of the play that we cover and shoot, right? So the season is going along, and then you have that non-conference game in November.
Yeah, those are silly.
And it just kind of doesn't kill the mood, or it kind of kills the mood, kills the vibe. The stadium's never packed for that game, it seems. And so the conversation, the press conferences that we have, it's hard to... You're trying to talk about the next game, right? Because conference standings matter. And then it's we're focused on insert non-conference opponent here. So that's hard to just kind of cover, because it's okay, it's not a wash. You're supposed to win that game. You want to win that game, but it's just, it pushes off storylines and coverage for the next. You have so much to lose in that game versus what you're supposed to win. You're supposed to win it. So I'm all for going to 9 games. The football season's already a bear as it is. Just throw another conference game in there.
I don't
texting over there.
I was checking to see, because I couldn't remember if Alabama beat Kansas State or not in the postseason. And I still haven't found the answer yet, because now it's my turn to talk.
Oh, do you want me to
talk?
Yeah, but because I almost feel like I remember Kansas State walloping Alabama, but nope, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Never mind. So that argument obviously is going out the
game. That was...
And that's from 2022. Maybe they didn't play them in the bowl game, and I'm just doubly wrong. I can't remember who it was that Alabama played in the postseason. And obviously that's not an argument for you shouldn't have been in the playoffs anyway, because if you don't make the playoff and you're just going to some bowl, then obviously there's not some motivation behind it, and so it's just different. And it honestly doesn't even matter,
Michigan.
Travis. I see. Okay, and they lost 13-19. What a snoozer. Anyway,
on New Year's morning.
There is no inherent advantage to keeping it 8 games unless you are willing to admit that the reason you want it to stay 8 games is because you want your schedule to be easier. Case in point, those late November games before the rivalry game, and pretty much every other SEC school is riddled with other just rando FCS or barely FBS schools, and maybe one marquee out-of-conference matchup. That's not... No. Maybe it's just from a competition standpoint or something like that, but if you want to preserve somewhat anything of what college football is about, preserving these rivalries and these games that people want to go to, want to watch, you have to move it to a 9-game format. You're the one who made the expansion. It makes sense. Just do that.
I think you hit that nail on the head.
What's the point of Texas and OU coming to the SEC, specifically Texas, if they can't play A&M every single year? If they can't play OU every single year? If they, you know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense to me, and it has to move to 9 games, especially if all of these other concessions that you talked about are going to be made. Then absolutely move it to 9 games for sure.
I think that's the overarching theme to most of my arguments for any of these things is why are we running from competition?
Yeah,
and I get it. Yes, the argument is, well, it's the grind. No one knows the grind of the SEC. No one knows what we go through down here. Well, okay, but it's your conference commissioners and the schools that are in it that expanded the conference,
right?
And added more teams. And even if you look at the way things played out this year, the SEC, the Big Ten was the better conference of the two, and they play nine conference games.
Sure.
Each year.
Yeah.
So I don't buy the whole the SEC is so incredibly hard. Like, okay, it's as hard, if not maybe the Big Ten's a little bit harder, and everybody goes out there and plays football.
Right. That's stupid
week.
Because those same people in the same breath almost will talk about like, the SEC is, we're such a force out there. Like, okay, well then show me. Like, show me that you can rise to the top of this very prestigious conference or something like that. And maybe also with 9 conference games, maybe an extra conference loss in there does not disqualify you from making the playoffs, depending on how things shake out, which I think maybe that's why the other things are involved. But yeah, it is literally running away from competition, and it's silly.
And the one that I have the most problem with, which is the one we'll move to next, is the fact that because they're looking to expand the playoff to 14 or 16 teams, the SEC and the Big Ten, and this has been something that's been floated since the playoff has expanded, is the SEC and the Big Ten want as many as 4 automatic bids to the playoffs. So basically, whoever finishes 1, 2, 3, 4 in the conference race of those just automatically get put in the playoffs, and that leaves 2 spots for the ACC, 2 spots for the Big 12, and then 1 at-large spot. And I again, why are we running from competition? And I get it that the competition is within the conference, but the whole point to me of the playoff was letting the entire geographical regions of the United States be involved in the postseason, not have these situations where they had in the 14 playoff where the entire West Coast was left out of the playoff. I want to see matchups that I don't normally get to see in the conference.
Sure.
So this whole idea of automatic bids, like earn the right to get in, and with a conference championship, I'm all for that. But after that, it shouldn't just be because you're in a certain conference that you get in.
Can definitely agree with that part. I think where you lost me a little bit was the regional stuff because of the way that the ACC and the Big Ten are now. Like
Big 12.
Yeah. No, ACC and the Big Ten. So like Oregon and Berkeley
all the way
and
to
UCLA
Maryland.
and USC. Right. So the regional stuff was almost kind of mitigated by that just atrocious conference realignment. But everything else, yeah, I agree. Nicole?
I think what's interesting to me is the automatic buys versus the automatic bids for the first, like the number 1 seed getting the buy. Obviously, this was the first year of the expansion, so it was also like, I felt like it was very confusing. Like Reese Davis had to like explain, have like a whole 30-second VO on why it was what it was. So that needs to kind of be figured out a little bit. But also all 4 automatic buys, they all lost. So it's like, once the field is set, how do they figure out what is the right seeding?
Yeah.
But I don't believe the Big Ten and SEC, you already expand the playoffs for a reason, and now you want to just fill more spots with those. It's tricky.
And I think from the SEC's perspective, it's like, well, we didn't even really need the playoff in the first place because our best team was always going to get in, and more often than not, another one of our teams was always going to get in also, and that brought just as much exposure to our conference and stuff like that. And so, like, I understand when they come to the bargaining table and they're like, well, if you want to expand this, then you have to include us more. That I don't like that. I understand it, but I don't like it. And to your point, I honestly think if you just change the auto buys to auto bids, I almost think the whole problem is solved. Like, just because you win the conference championship, okay, you're in, but you're still subject to the final ranking at the end of the year that then seeds everything, right?
Right.
Does that make sense?
And some clarifiers here. Up until the 2026 season, or actually I believe this is the last playoff under the old contract.
Yeah.
But per those rules, you have to have unanimous decision-making across all of the conferences that are included to make a change. So if they wanted to make a change to the automatic buys for the conference or the conference champions, they would have to have approval, and there is some of the smaller conferences, according to the reporting, that are pushing back against that because they want that better spot in the playoff. So I don't know if that's actually going to happen this year, but because of the way that the new contract with ESPN was negotiated, now for any rule changes to happen to the college football playoff, it only has to be approved by the SEC and the Big Ten. No one else really has a say in what's going forward, and that's why they can kind of push some of these rules through, which is also something that I don't really like, because because they are the conferences that make the most money, they are the ones that are looking for even more money, and that was what caused the last round of expansion. And it seems like they're making more problems to fix things that weren't necessarily problems in the first place.
Yeah.
And that kind of feedback loop is infuriating to me.
I don't think I could say anything. Like, I completely agree. It is very frustrating. And, as an SEC alum, am I pro SEC? No. No. Especially consider alumnus.
I thought you were a former student.
Right. Yes. It's the same thing. Texas A&M former student. Once an Aggie, always an Aggie. What are you quizzing me on here?
That A&M doesn't use the word alumnus. They use former student.
Oh, well, but I graduated from an SEC university.
Right.
So that's why I called myself an SEC alum.
I just like poking fun in your
You can't just drop a word that's weird and not expect us to stop everything.
I think a long time ago, and honestly, probably even before we were born, we abandoned the, college football's supposed to be fun. We're going to do what's fun and competitive and awesome first, because it's been a money. I see you moved out of my shot now too, because you were just in the corner here, and I miss you, Travis. For those, listen, money has been the motivator for this since the beginning of time. I think it's just that it's more out in the open now, and I think that is what has got a lot of folks frustrated. And this, whatever happens, I am pro A&M. I'm not pro SEC. I'm certainly not pro SEC/Big Ten. I just want to play football, and if that expands to 16 teams, that means more football.
I mean, some of the charm of college football is the fact that it is both regional and national.
Yes.
It is, when you live in the state of Texas, you can go to the water cooler at work and have an Aggie and a Longhorn and a Horned Frog and a Red Raider, and they're all going to talk trash.
Yeah.
And there is no love lost in between there. And then the winner of that gets to go out and play the winner of the Big Ten and the winner
go
of the
to New
SEC,
Orleans or go to South Bend or go to
That's how the bowl system was created, and I love that it's so unique to the sport,
right,
that to lose it, to go into something that is to make it just the NFL playoffs light, doesn't necessarily appeal to me. 12, 14, 16 teams, what do you think
for the expanded playoff? Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like going from 12 to 14 would be logical, but then they'll just go to 16, right? It's like we've already expanded. Just why would they go 2 when they can go 4? Because they went from. So it's
a slippery slope.
It's very tricky. It's hard for me to discuss because it's like it feels so not fictional, but it's like we have no idea what's gonna happen.
Well, and it's so new still. And we
only had this new playoff format for one time.
That's the one sample that we have.
And what we know is that all the buys lost.
Seemingly don't work, maybe.
And then you have, Ohio State and Tennessee right out of the gate?
Oregon in the second round.
And so it's like, I felt like when I'm looking at the bracket, I felt like the top bracket was a lot more stacked than the bottom bracket of the playoff. And so it's like some of these games could already be the championship.
Right.
And you're having that in the first round. And so I don't know if they want to have that, if they're trying to avoid that, if they're trying to have, I don't know, like a Boise State and a big, another automatic qualifier.
Sure.
I don't know. It's so interesting because we just came off the first year of it.
Well, and just because, and I think we can also assume that the Big Ten and the SEC will probably be the main powers moving forward, but what happens if and when Clemson is back, and Florida State. that one might be a little more of a long shot, but assume Florida State figures their stuff out. What if what's his name? Exactly. Yeah. What if Belichick figures it out at North Carolina?
Notre Dame.
Yeah, Notre Dame, whatever, because they're independent and they get special concessions anyway. So I'm not going to stick up for Notre Dame.
SMU made the playoff out of the
SMU,
ACC.
And they've got plenty of alums that want to
albums. Did you say albums?
Yeah, they have a lot of albums,
like records.
Yep, that want to.
I think Jack Ingram went to SMU, right?
Oh, that's a good tidbit.
Yeah,
they have a good album. The Marfa tapes with
Miranda Lambert.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Anyway, because they are the top dogs right now, like they get to call the shots, and understandably from their position, I get why they're trying to make the rules that they want to make, but I still hate it. Like, that's not fair, and it doesn't matter if it's fair or not in the real world, but I still don't like it. When
you have the people saying that college football, college sports are the Wild West, and it's because of NIL and the transfer portal and all of the athlete-related issues that are going on, I push back on that totally. I think the reason why college sports is crazy right now is because there is no person in charge of keeping everyone at bay. Everyone is working in their own self-interest at the conference administrator level, and it's all about chasing who can make the most money, not necessarily this is a fair competition.
Yeah.
Because the 4 automatic bids for both teams is certainly stacking the deck in their favor that they can win more games, which in turn creates more money.
Yeah.
Now
and more disparity, right? Because if you keep giving these guys a leg up, then they're just going to keep getting better and better and better, and all of a sudden, maybe 5-10 years from now, yeah, the Big Ten and the SEC are going to be the only things worth watching. And so keep it at Power 4. Understand that there are going to be years and maybe even little mini eras where those other conferences are not going to be as good as the other ones, and just let it play out. Because that's why you made the playoff in the first place.
Right.
Because you wanted them to play.
Right.
To see who the best one is.
It's so infuriating because I want to see... I don't care... that's the other thing about this. Maybe y'all can push back on this.
Just let it go. Let it... Give your thoughts. I feel like you guys...
right now.
I feel like you guys have some pent-up aggression about this playoff expansion.
Angry old men. I have so much anger towards the people who say, well, the first rounds were blowouts, and
they don't deserve to be on the field.
They don't deserve to be on the field because that is the point of playing the game. Sometimes there are blowouts. Sometimes there are close games. You don't need to rig the system to make it a made-for-TV event that is going to be a close, good game every time. Sometimes they're blowouts.
Well, that'd be
that's part of sport.
Not to cut you off, but... Sorry,
yeah.
We're all chipping.
We're fired up.
So angry.
Well, that's why you have a higher seed.
That's like the Super Bowl, right? So the Eagles go up 3 scores on the Chiefs. So the Chiefs don't deserve to be there.
Right.
They just figure that out. Don't have Patrick Mahomes.
Like, was it a sham that the Chiefs were there? Well, they beat everybody to get to that point.
They don't deserve to be on the field.
Taylor Swift.
I got some flack.
Taylor Swift rigged the Super Bowl.
I got some flack several weeks ago for kind of comparing this to March Madness and being like, sometimes the 12 seed upsets the 5 seed, and sometimes it's not particularly close. And the person was like, well, to even compare college basketball to college football.
Okay, was this the Grinch?
Completely different
is this
sports.
Jim Carrey?
But we don't know how it's going to play out because it's such a small sample size.
It's across sports. You can use basketball analogies talking about football.
How many times did we bring up baseball analogies to talk about football when it came to which quarterback do you use?
How many times have we brought up baseball to talk?
And we're going to keep doing it.
So I think we have the consensus of leave it at 12 teams.
Yeah, what are your thoughts? I mean, 12, 14, 16.
Teams.
I don't care.
I think it needs to stay. There's not enough data to say that there needs to be more teams. There was 12 teams, and if you want really great matchups, it proved that the really great matchups didn't happen until the second round. So in that argument, 12 might have been too many.
Sure. Okay.
But more games, ESPN has to pay more. That's the other factor in all this is if they want to expand, is ESPN going to pony up more money? Because that's the whole point. Oh, more games equals more money. Well, if the person who's paying you says, I don't want to pay more money, there's no point in having more games.
Right.
That's a whole nother aside. But I think there should be 12 teams because it needs let this thing run out a decade. So you have enough data points to see, is this good or bad? Is it every year that there's not 12 teams in the college football that can really compete at this level, or is that just an anomaly this year? Let it play out. I absolutely don't think that there should be more bids for the Power 2 conference teams. I think they're going to
I don't even like you using the phrase Power 2.
Yeah. I think that they are going to get, and Alabama fans would argue against this, but they're going to get the benefit of the doubt from the selection committee because of all the data points that says this is. I would rather the data points each year say that the schedule was actually as tough as they say it is, than just to automatically assume every year that it's going to be the toughest two leagues in college football. All that's doing is saying whoever wins the 247 composite rankings each year might as well just be crowned the conference championship because they collected the most talent.
Yeah. And man, that Alabama argument is so stupid. Don't get blown out by a bad team. It's really that simple. If they'd have maybe lost a heartbreaker, a really close one, they probably would have been in the playoff. But they didn't. It was never close, and that was one of OU's worst teams in over a decade, maybe more. Yes. So just don't lose to them. Yes. It's that simple.
And I think we all agree 9 games for the conference because we, especially selfishly to this region of the SEC, that A&M Texas game should happen every year. Yeah. So did I get anything wrong? Did I mince anybody's words?
No. Are we Travis is fired up, man. I love it. I love seeing that in you.
I mean, what's the point of bringing Texas into the conference if they're not going to play Texas A&M
exactly yearly? Yes, it is beyond silly.
The Lone Star Showdown, like. Side tangent.
We could go into softball. The softball.
I was just going to say that.
Which is also stupid. Like 2 very good softball programs that we're not going to get to see, and we're trying to build the sport.
And we're
trying to build viewership.
It's so interesting that they're not playing each other. And A&M has played Texas in the postseason the last 2 years. So it's like,
why would you not move mountains? Not even that. That's a necessity. Goodness. But why would that not be a thing? Just let it happen.
And it's also it's a sponsored trophy points series.
Yeah.
And these 2 teams aren't going to play?
Stupid.
Where's the who is the point?
I don't know. I don't know.
One other aside that I didn't actually pitch to you, but let's just get a hot take on this. It's something we talked about. So it looks like from reports today that Texas is not going to play a spring game.
And this is all hearsay, but this is mostly message board chatter.
Which is great for a journalistic podcast.
Which I am not.
He's the meteorologist.
Is that might be a domino falling, and that other schools will fall into step, and it seems like for the reasons that you and Tyler alluded to a few weeks ago is like there's so many more reasons not to have a spring game now. Than there are to have one. One of which being like, hey, your walk-on gets 15 passes for 150 yards. Hey, coach, I want more money now. Okay, bye. That thing. So why are you giving them a showcase to do that before the season even starts, I guess?
Yeah. Well, Nebraska made that announcement a couple weeks ago, so that's where I originally saw it coming down from Matt Rule. I just find it very, very interesting that Nebraska, I know it's the Aggie Gameday Extra Podcast, and I'm bringing in a Big Ten.
Hey, you have that perspective, so.
Nebraska sells out their sellout streak, their stadium. They also sell out their spring game. And so it is like an event. It is one of the special ones that we can cover and go to, and it's a good, fun, featurey, good. It's like an appetizer to football.
Right.
And then you lose that because there are some families that go to the spring game that can't go to real games.
Right.
And so it's like they're able to still go to the stadium and whatnot, but it's part of not the downfall of the sport, but it's a part of what is going to happen when, so you got, say not just the walk-on does well, but say another and doesn't want more money, but another team sees him.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, now we're scouting spring games. Not that they weren't, but it's like, you got a couple extra passes because we're not letting our first string go. Now you're going to go play for some ACC program
right.
And so.
And I didn't mean to put that all on the player. That's a very good point.
You're like, this walk-on wants more money. How dare he get out of here?
Go get your money. I think I've made that pretty clear in past podcasts as well. But yes, that's a very good point.
I just don't want them to have the spring game anymore because I hate covering it. It's all about me.
See, but
I just don't want to cover spring games.
It was cold, and that it was raining last year, and there was track going on that to cover.
And more often than not, it's already
and
that's fun, guys.
And there's usually only the lower bowl of people there. Like it's
and I'm one of them, and
it's
I
a good time to get video.
Well, all right.
It's all about me. I don't want to cover.
Well, how much time do we have left? Are we talking any baseball and basketball?
Yeah, let's. That was actually what I was going to get to next. Basketball lost to Mississippi State in a 5-game winning streak. Excuse me. Go ahead.
I don't care.
Yeah,
I don't care that it happened. I penciled that one in as a loss a long time ago. Mississippi State's a feisty team. They need a win.
Weird things happen with A&M at that gym.
And Mississippi State stormed the court.
I hate Mississippi State.
They were
and apparently
in that
they're
game.
not going to pay us for it because of some weird fine print. But I don't. It's fine. Like,
that's
move
the
on.
Third court storming of the season.
3
out of 5 losses.
Yep. And then another. Yeah. I just move on. And this team has shown a lot of times that they can move on after a loss. And even if they lose to Tennessee on Saturday, still not particularly worried. I will maintain what I said at the very beginning of this season. I don't have any expectations, but I do a little bit, you know. And at this point, it's Buzz and his team have shown me that one loss is not going to break your season like maybe it would in the past.
What do you make of this loss?
It's okay. It's a 0, as Buzz would say. You know, a loss on the road is in his metrics of the +1, -1. So it's a 0. It's a top 25 matchup on the road. I will say the style of play is concerning.
Sure.
Right. The offense. You know,
turnovers.
when A&M goes down, who is there? Like they have Wade, they have Zurich, but it's. Once you reach March and once you reach the tournament, you don't get a bounce back. You get one game.
Very
true. One loss right now in the conference on the road against a top 25 team. I'm not losing sleep over it. I actually probably wouldn't lose sleep over it regardless. But
you want to go back to Des Moines, Iowa?
I never went.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So
yes, it is such a nothing. I mean, if you look at Bracket Matrix, that compiles all of the different mock brackets, they didn't even move off the 2 line after the loss.
Yeah.
It's a quad 1 loss. Okay, cool. They did go 7 minutes without scoring a basket. That is concerning. Most of that is because they turned the ball over 19 times.
It's
2019 times.
2019 times.
It's concerning, but is it surprising? Even
yeah, because
even
they haven't
with
been a team that turned the ball over.
Okay.
A lot. I mean, if they were just flat out missing shots.
Okay.
And
Max, it's concerning.
I don't know. I feel like I'm the one who's usually freaking out, but I'm
cool,
calm,
collected.
I'm fine as a frog's hair.
I mean, if they go into an NCAA tournament game and turn the ball over 19 times, then you're going to lose the game.
Yeah.
And then you're going to lose it.
And then I very well might. Yes, if we
they're
don't
going to lose it, and then we're all going to lose it.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's as much of a problem. The thing that actually did concern me, 4 second chance points in the game. That's their whole bread and butter. If the 2 stats, if they have a bad free throw percentage or bad free throw attempts number
against good teams, especially obviously,
and if they have bad second chance points, that's how A&M. That's the thing you should really be concerned about, because that is the bread and butter of how they play offense.
Yeah.
I don't think. I mean, they've been really good at not turning the ball over this year. Probably a top 25 program in turnover percentage. But I have to log into this website now. Really?
Yeah, I don't. You know what, Travis? I don't really care. If I'm being honest. But
why are you so lackadaisical, Max?
No, that's not that. I'm trying to give off the.
Oh no, they're pretty bad at turnover percentage.
That's what I thought. I knew it.
They were good, but they most of the games that should be only because of a few outlier games.
That's what
I
that
don't
looks
necessarily see that as.
I will. Okay. Then I will say this is anecdotal.
Okay.
You have the numbers right in front of you, but there are a lot of times, especially when we're down, if Zurich Phelps has the ball, if Manny has the ball, if Wade Taylor has the ball, I'm nervous. because I'm worried that they're going to turn it over. I trust Wade more than the other two, but sometimes I'm even like, what am I about to see? And am I going to like it? And more often than not this year, I feel like, yes, I have liked it. But, man, it just...
Through the stretch of their... Ole Miss, they had the season-high 20 turnovers. Since then, it's been 11, 13, 10, 13, 11, 9, and then 19. So probably when I'm talking... Because there was... During non-conference, there was some pretty high turnover games. I guess mine is a little bit more recency bias in the fact that they haven't, in that winning stretch... they haven't turned the ball over a lot. And really, at the beginning of the conference, it was 7, 7, 8, 11, 9, then 20, then 11, 13, 10, 13, 11, 9, 19. So if you're saying that this is a team that's growing, that should be that they've kind of maybe grown out of it, except for the two outliers in conference play. But they were really bad at turning the ball over in non-conference play. You are right there. So it's maybe a little bit of both.
Sure.
A little bit of both. Baseball. What do you think? Opening series.
Gigamags. That's what I think. I liked it. Obviously, Friday night was a little bit concerning, and a lot of people were talking about how the weather affected those dingers, and like maybe
Max is not in on that.
All right, meteorologist. Let's talk about.
Cold
fronts and ball traveling.
No, we're not going to do that. That kind of air mass does tend to like have those launchers like hang a little bit more, and oftentimes they do stay in the ballpark. Somebody else brought up the point. Didn't Hayden Schott strike out like 4 times on Friday night? They were shaking off the rust, and that's fine, and they still got the win, and nobody is going to look back at that first game and try to get anything from it other than, it was the first game back after the offseason, and then all of a sudden the bats started flying. Yes, it was drier air, but...
Is that something you have to study in school? Like how baseballs travel in weather?
Yeah, that is all a part of like fluid dynamics and stuff like that. So yeah, as an operational meteorologist, that's absolutely something that you have to think about. But, we don't... And I forget who it was that said this. It might have even been you, but oftentimes towards the end of the year when you have that south wind that goes out of the field, like from home plate out into the outfield... Yeah, of course, that aids it a little bit. But it was a north or a northwest wind the entire weekend sans Friday. And that's not necessarily conducive. Like, I think they're just hitting the ball better to finish the weekend is what I'm trying to say with that.
What, if you hit the end of that baseball bat with that baseball and it's like 40 degrees outside, you might just cut your hands off.
It hurts, dude.
How did you played softball, right?
I did.
How did you do that in South Carolina? Like
South Dakota.
I'm losing my mind. Always.
What do you mean? Like, how did we hit the ball in the cold?
Yes.
Well, we played inside. Like, we didn't play outside until...
You mean like in practice?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we
had some like high school domes up there or something.
No, we'd play in cages and we would play in gyms.
Okay.
Just like practices.
Okay.
So
I hate hitting anything.
Mac Barbara, softball player, doesn't wear batting gloves.
Good for her,
and she hits home runs. She hits dingers.
Yeah.
No. To me, I really liked what I saw from Terrence Keel, guy who a freshman out there. We should have a feature on him by tomorrow, by Friday.
He's big energy.
He is
big personality.
Big personality. Football, baseball player in high school. His dad was an Aggie, and so just a lot of cool storylines with him. Prager looked good. John Freshcorn looking like going to be the closer. We talked to him today. Seemingly some good stuff out of him. And then the local kid, Blake Binderup, maybe had some things to
He's
to
8 feet tall.
on. He is 8 feet tall. Maybe some things to improve on in the field, but at the plate, I mean, he was one of the most consistent hitters of the weekend.
I am unfortunately jinxed when it comes to Blake Binderup. I missed his home run in the scrimmage, and I missed it during the game. So
I see that as Blake's fault. If you were Tyler, that'd be Blake's fault, not your fault.
So I need one thing to be looking for. Our Tyler Morgan and I were talking. Camera rolling. Jace Lavalette is up.
Yeah.
Not stopping. Don't even hit stop. And then also for me when Blake's up, I had to edit. I had to turn the content, and then all of a sudden I heard Rattlin' Bog playing, and I got really sad because I was like, oh no.
Jake Laviolette. The reason is could break that home run record here pretty soon.
It could. I think he will. So he's 3 away from tying, 4 away from breaking. I talked to Dalen Holt last year. He holds the record right now. Ran a story on him during the College World Series, but Jace kind of tailed off towards the end with home runs. So maybe I'll just circle that back and rerun that story again.
Sounds good to me. Max, closing thoughts? Weather this weekend. Could be kind of interesting.
Yeah, I would be fluid with the baseball scheduling. It's still cold, and there's another system rolling in, and there could be some fun stuff with it. Sunday looks great. Friday and Saturday will be cold and potentially wet, especially Saturday. So just be fluid with your schedules, if at all possible. That's all.
Do you see some maybe delays in?
I could see that happening. Yes, I don't have a huge concern for it, but I could see it happening.
All right. Yeah. Well, there's your weather forecast for the weekend. There's your debates on college football for tide you over until the next big issue comes through. Be sure to check KBTX.com for all of our recaps and stories, everything going on in Aggie sports and high school sports coming up. Check out the shows 5, 6, and 10 with those two guys. And we'll be back. So for Max Crawford and Nicole Griffith, I am Travis Brown. This is the Aggie Gameday Extra Podcast. We'll see you next week.